Are you having trouble beating Face Final Puzzle for the very first time? Well, this is the episode for you, my friend. Episode 75 of the Talk Through of Shiren the Wanderer. Hey there, it's Doofy again, back in Face Final Puzzle. Another rice changer, eh? I'm gonna save my herb of victory. Oh, a cudgel! I love this rice changer so much. Oh no, procrastinate, I hate you so much. I'm bipolar in my affections for the rice changer. Let's see. Oh yeah, the please hold me is not a holding jar. Oh, log trap. Oh, this guy's gonna level up? No, I'm not gonna let him level up. That would just be greediness. Last episode I was talking about Deus Ex, and I'll wrap up my thoughts on that and then get to some practical tips for Shiren the Wanderer. I played, as I said last episode, on the highest difficulty in Deus Ex, and I realized fairly quickly that the difficulty curve in the game is kind of weird. I died like 30 or 40 times in the tutorial to the game on the hardest difficulty, just getting used to the controls. And then finally it clicked. And after that, the game it almost got easier and easier as I went along. And I realized very quickly that if I used those practice upgrades, that the game would become ridiculously easy. So there's a playthrough of the game on YouTube of a guy who doesn't use any takedowns, doesn't use any practice upgrades or any items even. He just uses crates basically and takes advantage of the physics engine in the game. It's pretty funny to watch him kill all the bosses by throwing boxes at them. But I didn't go to that extreme. I upgraded hacking all the way just because I like exploration and I wanted to find all the different pathways. But once I upgraded hacking, I stopped using any other upgrades. So I had like 30 of those practice things by the end of the game because I was playing fairly stealthily. Oh no! It's a gaze. Is he gonna make me eat all my rice balls? No. Very good. And Deus Ex is a lot like Shiren the Wanderer in the way that you can control the difficulty, or at least like Face Final Puzzle. Just by controlling the build of your character or what items you allow yourself to pick up and use. You can fine-tune the difficulty to be as difficult or as easy as you like. How you like that segue back to Shiren? So, I think I'm gonna try to get away. So enough to take damage from both these guys at the same time. Alright. Oh no, I'm getting shot in the butt with an arrow. If I was smart, I would have attacked them one space away, because I knew there was a crossbow boy down there. Not playing intelligently, Doofy. So, in Face Final Puzzle, you can limit the items. Another shop. This run is being very nice to me. And look at this. 2 rice balls. Wow. So I didn't need to get those rice balls, maybe. Maybe I'm playing this all wrong and I shouldn't even try to get rice balls from rice changers, that the game is just going to give me enough rice balls to survive. I don't know. I know I've starved to death before. So I'm not going to second guess myself. You did the right thing, Doofy. Alright. 800, I remember that those are the blessing scrolls. So that's a useful one to kind of know just because there's only a couple scrolls that are 800. I'm going to call this Bless My Grits. If you're from the South, you might be familiar with the expression kiss my grits, which is a nice way of saying kiss my rear end. 22,000. Alright, I am almost positive that that is way too expensive to be a strengthening jar. One of the prices you need to memorize in Face Final Puzzle is strengthening jar. They're like 15,000-ish. So 22,000. I think that's Guy Bar's jar. I'm almost 99% sure. So, I will call this one... Now, it's too expensive to be strengthening. I'm just gonna try to think of a clever way to say it's more expensive than a strengthening jar. Strengthenier or strengthen less. Maybe I think I'll just call it too pricey. And it'll let me know that this one is way too expensive to be a strengthening jar. Yeah. Yeah, I'm no way. No way. That's a strengthening jar. Ooh, a 5k. Alright, there's another thing I'm going to do in this run. I could pick up this 5k, and a 5k is, I think it's trap, recovery, loss. I think there's one other. Oh, passage or happy. It's not a trap armband because you don't get those this early. So it could be happy. It could be recovery. So I'll call it happy health. Could be passage too. I could pick it up and find out if it was recovery or happy, but I'm not going to do that because it's not polite, you know? Picking up somebody's items in the shop and trying it on. What if the next person doesn't want to use an armband that's already been used? So I'll just label it happy health because I know it's a 5k. In a serious run, I would just call that 5k. 5k armbands are really easy to ID. Alright, I found out this is a jar of hiding. This episode, I'm going to tell you some practical tips for Faye's Final Puzzle. First practical tip, you need to be able to rice ball run Table Mountain and get to the feather. Because you need to be able to survive in Faye's Final Puzzle long enough for your items to bake in a strengthening jar, which is usually, I'd say, floor, 25, 30. If you can't make it to floor 25 or 30 in a Faye's Final Puzzle run relatively consistently, maybe once every 10 or 12 runs, you got no chance because you don't have time for your items to bake. You might get a really lucky run, but you want to beat it consistently. You want to just rely on luck. So first, do that. Rice ball run Table Mountain until you're pretty good at it. Then, come back to Faye's Final Puzzle and get a good flowchart for the confusion. So, I think, am I wearing an armband? That means my 3k armband is not the armband of Calm, which I don't really care, but if I was being really methodical, I would check that off the list. The most important thing you need to do with items is to come up with a flowchart for jars. And hopefully you figured this out fairly soon. But what is the general flowchart for jars? First, you look at it. Is it pressable? Right away, that eliminates the 3 pressable jars. I messed that up, clearly, in one of the previous episodes. Because I don't know how I missed that. I must have been just staring at the price ID checklist and not looking to see if it said press, which is pretty sad. Second check, try to insert something. Right away, as you can see in this episode, you'll know if it's a hiding jar. Third step, stick something into the jar. I usually stick an arrow unless I have like a cudgel or a wooden shield or some extra item, bronze shield, and I already have a good shield. But stick an arrow in. Can you remove it? If you can, then it's a holding jar. If you can't, and it disappears, it's one of the disappearing jars, so it's a bottomless or storehouse. So you can label it, I usually label it DIS for disappearing, but whatever label you want to label it. So finally you've gotten to the point where you know the jar is a jar where you can put something into it and you can't remove it. That is the key point. At that point, oh my gosh, rice balled my holding jar. At least I can save my victory. Alright, I got tons of rice balls here. Guess I could get one more. There we go, that's what I wanted. Rice changed the weeds. I wouldn't mind if he rice balled my curse scroll of blessing too. Got an iron shield, so there's really no danger of him killing me. Alright, there we go. So I am loaded up on rice balls. I like to do this early on just so I know that I never have to worry about hunger. But that's just my technique. At this point in the jar ID flowchart, we've gotten to the point where we know we have a jar we cannot remove things from. At this point, I would usually put in something un-ID'd, like a cudgel or wooden shield I picked up to see if it's an ID jar. Speaking of IDing jars, I'm going to ID this jar with my scroll, just to show you it is indeed Gaibar's jar. Yes, I was right. And you can also see if the item changes, so you know if it's a change jar. Once you eliminate ID and change jar, you're at a crucial point in the flowchart because you're down to the last 6 jars. Could be pointless, unbreakable, venting, weakening, or the 2 that you really, really want, melding or strengthening. So you want to protect those jars because they could potentially be melding or strengthening. If you have a good hunch and a lot of extra swords and shields, you can try to test it for melding. But usually I save those until I get to a shop, and you can see I've found tons of shops here. And you can ID the melding or strengthening jar, or at least find if it's a possible strengthening jar. And then go ahead and test that some more with an actual sword later on. Alright, that is the key. You need a good flowchart to ID jars. Work on that first. Once you get that down, there are only a few other things you need to know. Alright, hopefully that helped you out. I'm going to save and wait until next week to give you a few more tips to start Faye's final puzzle. But that's a good start. I will see you next week. Bye-bye. I can think of monster houses when running for my life was the only thing I could really do. I just wanted to see the next floor, but in order to win, I need to learn more. So how can you ID a stolen jar? How can you stop rice changers from rice balling?
Procrastinating, I hate you so much.